Hey guys, I'm super excited. In this video, we are going to be going over how to draw an adorable vintage retro camper, and we're going to be doing it all in Procreate. I'm Peggy Dean. I'm an educator and artist and author and founder of thepigeonletters.com, where I bring you a ton of freebies, so be sure to jump over there and get on that. But in the meantime, let's get into drawing. So we're going to be working in shapes primarily and then adding on detail later. We are going to be using, I'm going to be using a specific brush set. You can use anything that you want. I'm actually into experimenting with these. Now, don't judge me. Is it Copic or Copic? The markers? I swore it was Copic for the longest time, but then I heard someone say Copic, and now I don't know. Anyway, Lisa Bardo put out this brush set, which is actually 3 brush sets of these brushes that are similar to the way that Copic pens markers work. And I think that that's really fun because they're buildable and look like actual markers. So that's what I'm going to be using. I'll explain their features as I'm using it, but of course you can use anything that you want to use because we are just going to focus on our retro vintage camper for fun. So first thing that I want to do is grab my base color. So I'm going to be using, I was going to be using this red. Now I feel like I'm changing my mind. No, I'm going to use the red. You can use pink or blue or whatever. And you can use literally any brush that you like. The particular one I'm using is in the Copic Cat, so it's like copycat marker set. I thought that was so clever. Called Bardo Copycat Wide, and it looks like this, and the brushes go along with you as you draw with them. I like that because I don't want any thick and thin for this particular spot what I'm doing. So you can always sketch this first. I'll show you the shape. You can do this with like a sketching tool or an inking tool. I'm just going to go right in with the shape because I like that effect of the overlapping and whatnot, and that's the idea here with these brushes. So to do my retro camper, I'm just going to create kind of like I don't even know what you would call this, a dome or like I don't know. It's like kind of like an oblong shape that cuts off right here. This one's not the best, so I'll try this again. So I'm starting at the bottom, I'm coming up, and then I'm going to meet back just like so. I'm a little wonky here. You can always adjust that. If you don't know how to do that, you just go to your select tool, you go to freeform, hold down on the top corner and adjust. I'm going to make it go back to where it was because I want mine to look a little wonky and hand-drawn. And then I'm going to do a straight line across right here, a straight line across on the other side, but in the middle here, I'm just making a space for the wheel well. And I'm totally fine with, I'm just erasing this part. I'm totally fine with having it overlap. That's actually what I'm doing by using this brush set on purpose because I think it adds so much fun character. So there's 2 things now. We could either draw, where the door goes, where the windows go, etc., or we can fill the entire thing in and then draw them later. I'm going to draw them out just so that I have that empty space to work with later. So I'm just going to do a little door here. Oh, I guess I want it to be square. Yeah, that makes more sense. So I'm drawing a little door here, and remember this is the door frame, so you want to leave enough room inside because that's where the actual door goes. And then I'm going to do a couple of windows. Maybe I'll curve them here, straight line down, and then they just curve down like that. So I'll do another really small one. Actually, do I want to do another small one? Yeah, I'll do it. But see, I didn't leave enough room. I want to make sure I leave enough room because this isn't my outline of my window. This is like I'm working in negative space. So the white part is the part that's the actual window. Okay, so now I want to color this in, but I think that I want to split the color. So instead of going the whole way with this red color, I might just do like half of it so that it has a little more of like a retro feel. So I'll just go through half of it and notice that I had a wobble in there. I'm totally fine with it because I am liking that it looks hand-drawn. And from there, I'm just filling it in with like how I would if it was an actual marker. So I like the streakiness of it. I think that it just adds some fun character. I mean, you could even just do, a color drop with this. This doesn't have to be textured at all if you don't want it to. I am just a fan of texture. And so I'm not going to fill that the whole way. Another thing that I want to mention about this brush set that she has is, there we go. Okay, is that the color is buildable, but she has two different types. So she has the, and you can grab these. I've linked them below if you want to follow along with this exact set. But the Copic Cat, whatever, markers. So what that looks like is basically like, you know, I can fill that in, and the more I add to it, the more opaque it will get. But then the layering part, if I was to switch over to layering, these are the same brushes, but it's just a different effect. Whoops, that's too big. If I was to do that same circle and then fill in, it's just going to get darker and darker instead of more saturated, or excuse me, more opaque. So this works also well for another reason. So I'll show you the same thing in both types of, whoops, I'll just fill this in like this. Okay. In both sets. So the first one is the markers. And if I was to grab like a yellow and then go over that, what this is doing is like, yeah, it has translucency and it builds up, but like with actual alcohol-based markers, that's not actually possible because they would blend together and be transparent. It doesn't really matter because this is a Procreate fun time to have, so this is just a cool effect. But she did make the layering set on purpose to work like alcohol markers. So see, when I cover that up, it's actually turning into the color that it would if it were to blend. So it's pretty cool the way that this set works. I didn't do that on another layer, so I have to press back a bunch. Okay, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then what I want to do now, I'm going to create a new layer on top of this one and select a different color. And I think I just want to do something that's just light gray. Yeah. And then the reason I did a new layer is because I want to get rid of this red part here and all the reds. You can't really see this very well. So I'll pick a different color and then decrease the brightness. Okay, you can trace, Peggy. So yeah, I'm just going to trace that, exactly what I did already, so I can get rid of the red part. I'll go down here, because I want this top part to be like a light gray. And then I'm just going to color that in the same way I would like with a marker. And some people like it to be like more, you know, perfectly streaky like that, which is really fun for sure. I've kept mine like that on purpose sometimes. I'm going to get rid of this red part real quick. To do that, because it's distracting me, so I'm going to go back to that red layer, select my selection tool, and then just go along here and just cut it off. There we go. Okay, so now I have my split. So that adds a ton of character for sure and looks really fun as like a marker base, but I like it to where it's kind of like I intentionally, you know, like when you're a kid, I'm gonna make this smaller, you know, like when you're a kid and you sit there and you like color it in to make sure it's really colored, but obviously you didn't do the best, the best job you could because the marker could only do so well. That is the effect that I'm going for because I just think it is so fun. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to decrease, or you can change the color. If you're not happy with the color, I'll show you how to do that actually. So if you go to the magic wand tool here, go to recolor, just hover that where you want it, go to your color wheel here, and then you can change it in real time, which is pretty rad. So like if I want that light gray, I can just come up here and I still keep all those fun strokes. It's just changing the color. Same thing with my red. Like if I wanted to, let's see, where is it? Recolor. I can change that in real time and see like, okay, well, does this hue look better? Does this shade look better? Do I want it more orangey, etc.? Do I want it darker? But you can see it keeps the fun effect, just changes the color. So the other part about this that I like is if I go to my erasers here, she actually made an eraser specifically for these markers. I can't remember, here it is. So it's under copycat texture tools, and it's the eraser right here. The thing I like about this one is that it maintains that texture like on the edges. So if I push that up here, you can see that it still has the texture, but it's sharper so that I can make those edges nice and sharp if I want to clean them up so they're not so bold. And that's just dependent on which nib that you use, if you will, because she's made these, the brushes are made so that you can basically work the same way with the Copic markers do. You know, so some of them have brush tips, so she has brush tips. Some of them are round, and some of them are like chisel. Some of them are wide, so that's another cool feature that she's added. Okay, so now I'm going to do the door, and I could do the door in a split color like this. I could do it just solid in one color. I think that I'm going to experiment. I'm experimenting with you guys as kind of my workflow. I'm just going to take that red, make it just like a kind of lighter, maybe even lighter than that. Yeah. And we'll see what happens. And I'm going to create a layer, and I'm going to drag it actually underneath these two. It doesn't really matter. That's just my workflow right now. Okay, so I'm just outlining it like I would a marker with a marker, and then I'm going to fill it in. So this is just a fun experiment. If you fill it in like this, then it looks real streaky and fun. I think I'm going to change this color. But then you can always, you know, emphasize just certain areas so it looks like it was filled in with a marker. Because if I was just to like leave this as is, it totally looks like it was scanned in, like from a marker, which I think is so fun. So, and color is not that big of a deal. I wouldn't stress about it in these beginning stages because you can edit them later. I'll go darker. And then I'll take that same gray and stay on this layer and just do, I'm going to make this real small and line my windows with it. You can see that's pretty light because these brushes are buildable. So I'm going to go over it a few times. I'll do the same thing with this one. I might actually bring this on top. So let's see if I drag it to the top layer. Yeah, that just kind of defines it a little bit more. And then I'll erase some of these harsh lines. There we go, on the door. It was kind of my cheat to not have to do perfect edges when I put it underneath. Okay, so now I can do my wheel. You can do black wheel, gray wheel. I'm going to go like real dark gray and then add a wheel in here, and I'm going to do it underneath, and then if I need to erase some, I will, but for now I'm making this larger. I'm just going to do a wheel in here. Yeah, I'll have to erase some of that. And then create kind of a center of the wheel and then fill that in for the tire. And I'm only focusing on the bottom part here because I'm going to get rid of the rest. For the, like, if you want to work in a way that is, I'm going to shrink it too. If you want to shrink it, go to the arrow tool, whoops, and then just shrink it on down. If you like to work in a way that is non-destructive, and what that means is, like, if I take my eraser to this, that's not coming back, and then I have to redraw it, and I might not draw it again the same way that maybe I liked how I drew this a lot. So to do that, you just go to the layer that you're on, select it, and say mask, and then stick on the black color, and that will remove anything. It will also do it it'll do it with the brush that you're on. So I actually like this. I'm going to keep it because it does kind of show through as if it's like, you know, a kiddo's illustration. But you can do it with a regular brush and it'll just take it away. If you want to bring that back, let's say like, okay, I need to bring that back for whatever reason, I can go to white and then bring it back by coloring over it because I'm using this mask layer that's on top. So just a quick handy tip and trick that will help you out. And then I'm going to select this gray color, put it in the center of this wheel. There we go. So it looks more complete. And then I will add a little trailer hitch thing. And I might use a different brush for this. So they're going to essentially work the same. As far as buildup goes, they're just, again, those different nibs. So I'll go with round now. And I might just have, you know, a little line coming off. Maybe even higher. There we go. and then a little hitch. And you can get detailed with this if you want to. I don't even know what these things look like, these hitches. So I'm just going to call it a day with that. Another thing I want to point out, so do you see how I went over this a lot, and then this one I only dragged over once and I didn't keep building it up? That was so that I could have the focus be what's in front of me, and then the back one is lighter because it's like in the background. You could do this opposite too, where the front is lighter and then the back is darker, and that's going to basically show depth and shadows and whatnot. So it's just kind of dependent on what you want to do there. So now's a point where like I have my basic shape here. Sorry, my dog's barking. She loves to bark when the only time she barks is when I do this. But so I have this laid out, and what I could do is I could start drawing on it, but what I want to do is feature some texture. So there's a lot of texture options in Procreate. You can find them in purchasable brushes or within Procreate's library of brushes. I've got some really great grainy brushes, but the ones that come in this set are the Copic Cat texture tools. So you'll see there's light, smooth dark, irregular light, irregular dark, stripe light, and stripe dark. So I'll show you how these actually look. I'm going to grab the texture brush, the first one, the smooth one, and I'm going to make this actually lighter. Sometimes you can go darker, like if you want to highlight something or if you want to make something have more depth, depending. So I'm going to go above the layer of the door, and then I'm going to use a clipping mask. You might be used to using Alpha Lock, which is 2 fingers. You drag, it creates this little checkerboard here, and then you can affect only the layer that you're on. But to work indestructively, which I like to do, I made that layer on top. I'm going to select it and say clipping mask. So the difference between mask and clipping mask is that mask, a regular mask is going to take, Lucy, lay down, honey, is going to take add and remove, basically. Clipping mask is a layer that is only affecting the layer beneath it. So just like Alpha Lock, but on its own layer. So I'm going to create some texture here. I can make this brush whatever size that I want to. It looks like this is creating a darker depth anyway. I thought I grabbed a lighter color, but it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the top. So I'm going to select it, layer on top of it, select it again, clipping mask. And now I can draw over this door area, and it's not going to affect the door. It's only going to affect that layer that this top gray part is on. And that's one of the reasons that I like working in multiple layers, is so I have the option to have that freedom without having to worry about, oh, don't get the top of the door. How am I going to make this look seamless? You know, so I'm just going through here and I'm just kind of spot texturing it. This isn't something that you'll get with the markers necessarily. So while I love texture, I want to really keep the integrity of these weird stripes. So I'm not going to use this one. I just wanted to show you what that looks like. I will show you the next one. So clipping mask, the next, oh, it's because it was said dark, duh. So then the next one's irregular. So I'll go dark again just to show you the same thing. That texture is going to be probably just more scattered. Yeah, so it's just more scattered. It has a nice organic texture to it. And then the other one that I want to show you is the stripe one. And this is probably the one that I'll work with more because, let me see if I can, was I on light? No, I'm on dark. Okay, I'm going to show you if might not show up very well on this one. Let me just pick a totally random color. And I'm pretty big. Okay, you can't really tell because I have so many stripes going on, but basically it's more of a striped effect. The other thing I wanted to mention though is, like, if you're using these texture brushes, it might take away from the stripe and whatnot. So I want to just use just a smidge of it, basically. Just enough to have some fun texture, but still have this look stripey. I just think it's, whoops, I didn't mean to clipping mask that one. I just think it's more fun to keep it that way. I don't know. It's just what I'm going for in this particular illo. Okay, so this is just white, and I'm just pushing a little texture in there. So see how it just adds a little bit to it, but it's not necessarily taking away from the streakiness. That's all I'm doing, just a smidge. Usually I work in a lot more texture, but I really love these brushes so much. So if you're wondering what I just did, when you take one finger and hold it down, whoops, it'll color sample so that I went back on red. You can also do that in your history here, but what I can do from here is actually get a little bit lighter. So I select a color sample, and then I go to my wheel, and then I get something lighter, and that will let me work it into the piece with texture without it seeming like way like overkill. And this one you can't even really tell, but it's still adding texture, which I like because of the color I chose. Yeah. Okay, so texture. That's what texture looks like. I might add a little bit more to the door. Maybe a little bit darker. Down here. Too dark. Another thing, like let's say I put this in way too dark. What I can do is go to the blend mode. So I select this in right now. That means it's on a normal blend mode. And then I can go to like lighten, linear, just play around with these and see which one you like, because they'll create different effects like this, which is cool. So like color dodge kind of makes it look like it's a reflective door because it's got it makes it all highlighted. Add, same thing. So play around with these because you might end up liking it more than like the normal overlay. Okay, so once I get to this point, now I'm just gonna use a real fine one, a fine brush. So I'm gonna go back to markers. I'm gonna go to super fine, and then I'm gonna select, you can do black. No, I will do black. Sometimes I do a little bit lighter just for fun. Let's see. Oh, I'm on a clipping mask. Okay, so new layer. Okay, this is where it's fun because this is totally like a fine tip marker that is buildable. So see how it totally looks. Oh, it's so fun. So that's how I'm going to add my detail. And you'll notice that, yeah, look at this. Isn't that so good? So add detail where you want to. So I definitely want to add it to the door. I'm just going to do these quick lines. That's a little too wobbly. You'll notice that the larger you make your canvas, the easier it is because you're using more of your arm rather than your fingers, and so that'll get smoother. Let's say you want your lines to be real wobbly. I typically go pretty slow and use mostly my hand grip, and then my lines, whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. Something happened. And then my hand is more wobbly, so it creates more of like that organic look. So that's one of the reasons that I really like to enhance and get rid of, and you know, that bottom line, I don't want it. So then I can add, you know, like a cute little handle. You can add a window right here if you want to. I might just do kind of like a quick mark to kind of insinuate that there's like an indent there of some kind. And then from here, I can add, see how I'm like intentionally making this wobbly to make it cute. And then I'll do the same thing to this wheel well and kind of bring that up a little bit, but I don't have to go the whole way. I don't have to outline this whole thing. So like my window, I can just show that like, yeah, it's totally there, but I'm not gonna give you all of it. I'm not gonna give it to you because it's just adding that effect. This part I do want to because I think it would be fun. And it's just like an organic, a fun little element that just looks like, oh, cute little line work, line detail without adding a ton of stuff. And then I maybe, like, I'll zoom out to see what might need to be added. And I see, like, I might want to add, you know, a little detail above the door here for like a door frame. So that just adds a little bit extra. I might want to emphasize the roof a little more, or I can put in little like notches, something like this, because it, you know, or like a skylight, you know, if you want to add a skylight type of thing, but the notches is nice. And then maybe emphasize the top. I don't know if I want to though, maybe a little bit. it's such a hard decision sometimes. It's like, well, there we go. That looks fun. Okay, so basically that's it. I think I want to change, like once this is done, I want to change the way this is blending a little bit. So what I could do is play with the blending modes, but I think all I want to do is decrease the opacity and just kind of make this a little bit less obvious. So I'm going to go to this N, and then you'll see opacity. Instead of blending modes, I'm just going to decrease the opacity, and that's just going to make it more transparent so it's not as intense. And then I can add like a background or anything fun that can go along with it to create like a whole little scene based off of this cute little retro camper. So I hope that this is helpful. If you want to learn more tutorials and follow along with me, be sure to thumbs up, subscribe, all the things. Come to thepigeonletters.com for some freebies. Basically all the goodies. So I will see you next time.